So I'm of the opinion that everybody is actually incentivized to be a pick-me. And this actually refers not just to women, it also refers to men too. And so I'll dive into that, but of course, pick-me is derived from speaking about women who basically want to say that they are not like other women, and they do behavior that signals to men, hey, I am agreeable and you should choose me. I am better than another woman because I'm not like other women, and I want you to see that I'm different, and I will basically comply with what you want. I will go along with whatever it is, whatever role, whatever projection it is that you want. I'm willing to do that. I'm on board for that. And so, I think that when people hear that sentiment or they kind of get the gist of it, they're kind of rightly grossed out by it, because I think we're grossed out by anyone who kind of kisses ass and sucks up to any kind of power system, and reinforces a hierarchy. And the reason that everybody is a pick-me, including women, including men, is that we basically live in a social economic system that requires us to basically forego part of our dignity, forego part of our authenticity in order to be chosen. And this process actually, it's competitive, right? It's not just, I'm willing to forego my dignity and just comply with your standards, so you pick me. It requires you to also have a competitive spirit and put someone else down. It requires you to basically say that you're better than someone else and that they're not as good. And so there's kind of like two components to it. One in which we're kind of idolizing a false god, meaning that if you put yourself in a pick-me position, meaning you want to be chosen by someone you view as having more resources or someone you view as having more status or power, and you're willing to acquiesce, you're willing to, again, forego something that is meaningful to you, something that is true to you, in order to put on appearances of compliance, well, that is pick-me behavior. And of course, like, where do we see this? Oh, well, we see it in schools, and we get trained into it in the workforce, the corporate ladder. So really, this whole pick-me mentality, it just reverberates throughout our entire society. And the truth is, men do this as well, but they do it to other men. So, men have an incentive for men who have higher status in them to pick them. And they are just as likely to do the same things as women in order to get closer proximity to people or men that they see as having power, having status, having wealth, having resources. And we're really trained to do this from our schooling, especially in career training, all of this, networking, all of this. And so that's why it can be a really uncomfortable thing where you're like, how do I naturally network? Because you're like, okay, apparently you're not supposed to want to get something out of someone else, but like, you kind of are. And so, you'll just see a lot of pandering that happens. And you see pandering that happens for people who are influencers, whether they're trying to catch the next trend. So they're going to pander to what they think people like, what the algorithm rewards. That's another form of pandering. If you know that the algorithm rewards more sensationalist, moral outrage content, you're gonna pander to that. I'm not saying you specifically, but if you are a pick-me, you're going to pander to it if you think that your success is tied to it. So in a lot of ways, the term pick-me is actually almost synonymous with grifter, where we're willing to kind of change our appearance. We're willing to comply to whatever standard is the one that is getting resources, and we're also willing to be competitive for it. We're also willing to put other people down for it. And so that's why, the term pick me gets this connotation of being kind of rude. For the initial pick me memes, jokes that started showing up, it was women saying like, man, isn't it so annoying when like just because a girl is like, oh, I like guy stuff, I'm cooler than other women. Isn't it just annoying that she thinks she's like superior to you? Isn't it just annoying she's kind of rude to you? So what they were really calling out there is, I don't like rude behavior. I don't like people who act like they're superior to me or that I'm inferior for, embracing my feminine qualities or not minding that I'm a woman and the things that come with that, and not trying to pretend to be a man, or, all these things in order to get good standing with men. It's really about the superiority thing, and it's really about the rudeness or any kind of bullying behavior that can come out of it. And so the thing is that pick me behavior, that's really what it is at its essence, is a willingness to be competitive, a willingness to put someone down, a willingness to kind of idolize a false god, whoever you think is more well-resourced. And so in my last video, I actually talked about how women are all pick-me's and girls. And what I meant by that was that there is a reason that we're incentivized to act like this, to whether it's to actually kind of abandon or dissociate from our own feminine qualities, because I don't know if you guys know, but we've kind of been taught that women are kind of dumb and crazy and all this stuff. So if you want to be cool, you should be less feminine. That's kind of the message we've gotten. So that's one part of it. And what I was saying in that last video was, hey, the reason that all women are pick-me's in that situation is that we all have a need to be regarded as special by our partners. But I think what I'm describing here goes a step further to kind of talk about the way in which pick-me really is a negative connotation. In my last video, I was trying to acknowledge how, hey, there's like a need behind why people are doing it. And in this situation, there's still a need behind it, which is people want resources. And what they're willing to do in order to get resources is, abandon some of their authenticity, abandon a part of who they are, pander to someone else who is more well-resourced. And really what we see is basically most people are incentivized to behave like this in our economy, and our social system also informs your income possibilities, like your network really does determine the next job that you get. So this also kind of bleeds out into our relationships as well. That kind of pandering or competitiveness that can happen. And so when I say, okay, that's what the core issue is, because, you can go on some place on the internet where people are like, oh, this is a pick-me, right? And they're so fixated on, I don't know, I guess some women displaying this behavior, but it's like, you guys, it's systemic. Like, people are incentivized to behave like this, and you just being like, you're a pick-me and that's bad. You're kind of missing the point. Like, I think it's okay to call out things that you don't like, but to kind of just be obsessed about it and then like weaponize it to a place where you can kind of bully someone into compliance, it's both ironic and I think it's just actually quite immature. So me even talking about these terms, I'm not trying to like feed into them, but I'm just acknowledging that their kind of cultural meaning and how they do play a role. And so, okay, if I've identified what a pick-me really is, if I've identified that it's really about someone who can be fake, who can pander, who is willing to be mean to others, to bully others in order to get ahead, is willing to be a little bit inauthentic, to say, pick me, they're willing to put someone else under the bus for their own advantage. So for that kind of behavior, if you notice you ever use that term, pick me, oh, she's a pick me, whatever, I want you to be really intentional about that term, because just calling any behavior like that, I think can water down the meaning. And then also, again, like at its core, it's intrasexual competition. It's often deployed by women with women to kind of get more resources. So there's a kind of a layer of honesty that has to be there. But here's the thing, is that if you don't want to be like a pick-me yourself, right? Because that's kind of the thing that has come out of this, where women are like, oh my gosh, that's a bad term. I don't want to be a pick-me, right? If you don't want to be a pick-me, it really starts with, you have to just like not be a bully, not be rude, not be mean. But here's the funny thing about not being rude, not being mean. There's this special line that women walk, because we are expected to be the upholders of peace. We are supposed to make sure everyone in the room feels comfortable. We're supposed to smile and be pleasant. In fact, if you don't smile, people feel entitled to tell you to smile because it makes them uncomfortable. So women walk this very thin line between just existing and offending people if they don't play into their expectations of femininity. And so when I say, hey, don't be mean, don't be a bully, women can kind of overcorrect and think that they have to be a people pleaser, say yes to everything. They feel super uncomfortable, making another person uncomfortable with, their honesty. But the truth is, we get kind of bullied into adopting this behavior. And so that thin line to watch is, hey, yes, I want you to be polite to people. I want you to be courteous to people. I want you to care, but I also don't want it to come at your expense. So, if you not smiling, is occurring because you don't feel like smiling, or if you, saying no is occurring because you don't want to do something, that's great. And it's not your job to, handle or take care of the other person's feelings. Actually, they're an adult and they can handle feeling emotions themselves. They don't need you to buffer it. They don't need you to do anything. Now, if they are rude to you because they felt entitled and you didn't meet up their expectation, and now they're like, oh my gosh, do you not like me? You do have to kind of, you almost have to treat them like a little kid and just be like, oh, I see, just treat them like a little kid. But you don't have to what is a little kid? A little kid just kind of needs some reassurance, all this. But again, don't be people pleasing, overdoing it. So yes, I'm trying to say, hey, don't be mean, but sometimes women can hear that and they're like, okay, so I should always be nice. And that's not what I'm saying either. I'm saying, like, a true pick-me is someone who's kind of willing to be rude to another person. It's basically being a bad sport. It's being a bad sport, which is you talk ish about the other people. You gossip. You're willing to spread rumors. You're willing to just act in bad faith so it can help yourself. And that is sad. But also, it goes even further, is that if you really want to stop being a pick-me or something, it starts with you and how you talk to yourself. Because so often, the person that we judge the most, the person that we're actually the meanest to, is ourselves. Unless you're like a complete narcissist and you're like, I am the greatest and everyone else is stupid. Most of us have this internal monologue that is critical and self-judging, and that is the voice of the pick-me. That is the voice of the bully. And the bully says like, hey, you're not doing enough, you're not good enough. And so it's weird because it's like your own voice to yourself. So like, why would that be the voice of the pick-me? But it's like, it's that scarcity that can make us act in more aggressive ways. It's that fear that can make us act in more aggressive ways, and the way that you actually dismantle your own immaturity or your own I don't know, pick me tendencies is you have to see that voice and just be like, hey, that is not an appropriate way to talk to me. So like the way you actually are able to start to have a spine and be able to hold up to someone else who's not respectful is when you're doing it to yourself, which is you don't tolerate it when you talk to yourself in a way which is like, wow, that was really mean, that was really judgmental. You know, whether it's like you're like, oh, you're so stupid or whatever. You really have to like stop talking to yourself like this, because in a way what it teaches you is that the internal you is wrong, but the external you that does things for other people is right. And so you bully the internal you bully the authentic you, the feeling you, and you know, you look to other people for your validation on the outside. And so it really just reinforces this kind of like pick me behavior. And so the way that you actually get chosen, the way that you actually decide that you're going to engage with something better, instead of caring about this pseudo competition or whatever that created this idea of pick me, I'm the better one, I'm the better choice, is no. You're choosing to be kind to yourself. You're choosing to engage with something better, which is, oh, I'm not going to listen to that thought. That's really rude to me. Like, wow, I'm surprised I just talked to myself like that. That's not true. That is not true. You know, you really do have to have that engagement with your inner monologue. And that is the real voice of the critic, of the pick me, because that inner critic is the one that wants that inner critic is saying, pick me to put your focus and attention on, pick me to listen to. And you know what? We listen to that pick me voice in our head that says, pick me to bully you, pick me to control what you do. And you know what? So often we can let that voice win. And so maybe you're someone, you don't compete with people outside. Maybe you're not a gossiper, or you're not putting anyone under the bus, but maybe you're putting yourself under the bus because you listen to this condescending voice in your head, this self-critical voice that is always vying for your attention, is always vying for your validation, because the true power is your attention. The true power is what you choose to engage with. And so when you stop engaging with the mean voice in your head, you stop engaging with the mean people around you. You stop seeing things as so competitive. I mean, the truth is humans are very cooperative. You know, we come from hunter-gatherer societies. We live in a society. I mean, no one human, well, there are humans who can survive by themselves, but it's pretty rare. We're built to be around other people. We're built to get along with other people. And so to kind of have a kindness to yourself can reverberate outwards in a way to create real, authentic relationships. And then also, we're social. So it's like, we don't need to be competing with each other all the time. Like, the truth is, we have plenty of resources. Like, humans are pretty obsessed with status and power because we've kind of built that into our resource system. But, you know, a lot of it is a farce. And every time we listen to that pick me voice, which is, oh, I'm the better version, I'm the better whatever, you know, we're feeding into that kind of scarcity. All right, so I'm going to end it here. Thanks for being here. I'd love to know your thoughts, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.